Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Curious Competitor Podcast. I'm your host today, current New Jersey Devils defenseman, Connor Carrick. Our guest today is Blake Bolden. She is currently a scout with the Los Angeles Kings. She is the second female scout in the National Hockey League, the first black female scout. This is off the back of her career at Boston College women's program, where she was an All-American, attended the Frozen Four 3 times out of her 4 years at school. She went on to a professional career in the Canadian Women's Hockey League and in the National Women's Hockey League, and finished up her pro stint. And we get to that a little bit, where I thought she was retired, but it was actually just COVID that got in the way. She also played a year over in Switzerland, so we'll cover all of that today. She is one of the more fun-loving and vibey, I'll borrow that word from her. She used it in this podcast today. People I've met in hockey. She has such a brightness to her personality. She has such a commitment to being herself, and a commitment to feeling gratitude for everything that this beautiful game has to offer, while also being critical of how we can grow it. And we'll talk about that today. She is the group growth and inclusion specialist on board with the Los Angeles Kings as well. So today, let's give a warm welcome to our guest, Blake Bolden. Blake, welcome to the Curious Competitor Podcast. I am very excited to have someone, I don't know, of your brightness and confidence on the show. I always enjoy speaking with my female hockey counterparts. I have a lot of respect for the will that goes into your routine, your ability to, find the next win, because it's not always, we're fortunate. I play in the National Hockey League. We have, the Gatorade water bottles with our number all lined up, and tape and towels. And it's pretty humbling every summer when you go back and have to, bootstrap your full equipment management staff on your own. So I have a lot of respect for everything you girls go through, and help me understand your origin story as we, take our audience back as a female hockey fan in the state of Ohio. How did you get into hockey, and did you have any clue that this spark for this crazy game that we both play would eventually lead to a life in hockey as you're currently living?
Yeah, I mean, I love when I get this question, because it always gives me a sense of gratitude. So when I was 4 or 5 years old, my mom was a single mom, right? We're just trying to figure out what the next step is. And long and behold, she meets a gentleman, and his favorite sport is ice hockey. And they cultivate a relationship. He worked in the Gund Arena in the IHL for the Cleveland Lumberjacks, like throwback, right?
Yep.
Jock Collender. Like, I was just like, this is so sick. So he would take me to the games. And I would just be running around like a little 6-year-old, just being like, what is this, like the Coliseum? Where am I right now? And the speed of the game, the physicality, I just loved it. It was just so much energy. And from there, I just remember being in the car on the way home like, yo, that looked dope. I want to learn how to play that. And immediately his eyes lit up, and we just drove to Play It Again Sports, and I got all that secondhand equipment and just put them on my feet and figured it out from there.
Play It Again Sports. What a throwback that was. When we were at the U.S. development team in the spring, we did the same thing where, we all had we're fortunate, we're USA Hockey provided our gear and stuff, but we wanted to have these rollerblades because one of the kids on our team, Matt Grizzlick, had a freshly paved, for the Boston Bruins, I'm sure you know, he had a freshly paved cul-de-sac. And so we'd set up these roller hockey tournaments with like $8 rollerblades, and off we went. And so I think you said something interesting. First off, beautiful use of the word gratitude about your origin story. I think, thinking back to how proud the little kid version of us would be for how far we've come in this game, like we got to make some room for that. It's something that I don't necessarily reflect upon enough, but you made mention you were drawn to the energy of the game. What about the energy? What about that in-person experience was something that you had to have. And what part of you related to that? Why were you kind of an energetic kid? Were you rambunctious? Were you frankly just wanting to hit people? Like, what was it about the game?
I think I was an only child and I was really curious and I was super athletic. Like I was doing karate and gymnastics and those things are cool, but they're individual, you know, and the team and the camaraderie and the fans, hockey fans, especially minor league hockey, it was wild. I was like, this is so exciting. I have to figure out how to jump in. So for me, I was instantly hooked. Like first game, had no idea that hockey was even a sport. I was a little black girl in Cleveland, Ohio. I was like, hockey? What is hockey?
Yeah. So what was your development path then? You from played against sports, you gained you get some equipment and like I grew up, you know, we have a common friend in Kendall Coyne, right? So I've asked her a lot of these questions and I had immense respect for Kendall just because I saw the ponytail out with, you know, all the boys and, you know, her compete level and the skating, you know, ability that she had. And then even, you know, she was one of the first people I remember that modeled this whole concept of, you know, I grew up in Southside Chicago. Orland Park was the name of our suburb. And she was the first person I knew to move away from home for development of the game. And, you know, I remember thinking like, I guess I'm going to have to do that someday. This is what we do. Yeah. And so what were some of the next steps all the way to, how do I say this? It's Norwood High School you end up at?
Northwood.
Yeah. My handwriting's bad enough that I couldn't read it. So how do you go from played against sports to Northwood?
Played against sports, pushing around a chair with tennis balls at the bottom of them and just figuring out what the heck inside and outside edges were, right? Like, no idea. I was just solo dolo on the ice. My dad had fun relationships with, it was just me on the ice. We had good relationships. I told you he worked at the rink, so he had players and so I was familiar with like where to go because of him. I signed up for house hockey. I was on the B team. Like I had 100 flex Sherwood wood stick. Like it wasn't great. And I just went to power skating every Sunday. I don't even know why I started doing that, but my dad's like, you're going to power skating. I didn't know how to stop for the first 2 years on my left side. And so every like camp or clinic I would go to, they'd be like, stop on your left. And I would go, shh, psh, and like, you know, you've seen it a lot.
A little cheater stop,
cheater stop. And they were like, no, you got to learn how to do this. So eventually I figured out how to skate. Kendall Coyne's an amazing skater. And
unreal.
It was just like, that was my token as well. I was just like long strides, love it, just powerful because I was athletic and had to work on my hands next. Played boys hockey after that house league, realized that I was pretty gifted, and then decided, hey, why not try out for the Cleveland Barons, AAA boys hockey? What could go wrong? And so I made the team, and it was the 91 Barons. I played Megan Bozak. Her and I were the only girls in the entire NWEHL. And that was fun because we were pretty tough competitors. I remember playing with Kendall Coyne, Bose, with Manon Rayom at the Pee Wee Carnival tournament back in the day. And that's when I realized, okay, well, I think I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to try to go as far as I can. And Northwood came knocking and they're like, hey, we need someone like you. Would you be interested in coming? And my parents are like, boarding school? What? And that was just the path I took. There was no college coach that was going to come to a boys hockey game to recruit a girl. So that was the decision we made as a family. So we just packed it up and went up there.
So what was that like growing up in youth hockey, playing with and against boys? Like what character traits did you develop from this? What did you, do you have any horror stories, any highs, of teammates coming together? Give me some of the good, bad, and the ugly.
Oh, dude, I loved playing boys hockey. I think boys are just so cool. They're just connected, right? They're rough. I remember locker boxing in the locker room thinking I was like as strong as them, not smart. I have like I still have a gash up underneath my chin from locker boxing when I was like 10 years old. But yeah, the first season wasn't great. I was this black little girl coming in on the team, and they're like, who the heck is this girl, thinking she's going to play AAA boys hockey. It was a big deal back then. And I just had to earn my place. I had to have them respect me. I remember throwing a huge hip check. Some guy went flying over my body, and they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, Blake, like
She's
you
a
can
gamer,
hang with
she
us."
can play.
Yeah. So from then on, it was great. The opponents stunk, though. I mean, they were bullies. They would call me names. Parents in the stands would say crazy things, and because my mom's boyfriend was white, he would hear like the worst of it because no one thought that he was connected to me. And I would overhear my parents in the house, in the kitchen, talking about like how disgraceful some of the people were that we played against. And we were just little kids trying to have fun, traveling, playing travel hockey. But people are tiger moms and dads out there, just like vicious. Didn't like that I was kicking
competitive sport can bring out some of the ugliest of humanity and people. I saw it. I played with other black players, kids who were Jewish. Any group of people, any minority that there were some difficult things to have to be heard. And I remember growing up around youth rinks, and we'll get to that about how we can grow our game and what that even looks like, but. So when you end up at Northwood, how does this eventually project out for your time at Boston College? Because I understand when you say Boston College and playing Division I hockey there, that's a big deal, male or female.
Yeah. It was a dream. It was a goal of mine ever since when you go to like USA hockey camps when you're younger. So you go to like these little camps and all the coaches come in and they coach your team and you're on all these different colors. So one year, the head coach of Boston College, Katie King, came in and gave a speech. She's a 4-time Olympian. And I was just smitten. I was like, holy crap, I want to go to that school. Like, that's it. I went to Northwood. I was fortunate enough to see them play in the Frozen Four in Lake Placid. Herb Brooks Arena, which was sick. And they lost in double overtime to Minnesota Duluth. And for whatever reason in my brain, I'm like, that team's a go-getter. They're grinders. Like, I want to help build a program. I want to go there. And I was dope in high school. I was that Quinn Hughes. I was that rushing up the ice, scoring goals, just like getting wild and crazy. And they're like, no, we want you. And I was like, oh, wow, full scholarship. My parents wouldn't be able to afford college. So that's the route we're taking. Check that off the box, Yeah,
I love that. And that really, even as a young boy growing up in the game, there wasn't even a conversation about the National Hockey League. It was really all about Division I and having the opportunity to be a student athlete and achieve a scholarship. And, how were you able to manage both your studies and your, personal play as a student athlete with Boston College? How was that?
Well, BC's a pretty tough school. They put on a lot of work, and they really, the professors, they don't care that you play sports. They don't give you like a hall pass. They're like, no, you need to get this done. So we had a lot of resources in the athletic department, student services. We were like forced to sit in this room to study to get all of our work done. We had, 5 courses a semester, where a lot of universities have 4 or even less than that. So it was challenging, but if you didn't have good grades, you didn't play. So there was no, wavering on that. It was like, if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, you could not play. And my mom, who was a strong black woman, was like, I did not sacrifice for you to mess up in school and, not work hard. So it was like, yes, ma'am, let's go.
Let's focus on that, because there were 2 points. When you were talking about the USA Hockey camps, for any of our listeners, USA Hockey would put on these camps. I think it starts at age 14 for both the boys and girls. Was yours in Rochester, New York as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and you're a couple years older than me, so I assumed it was. I can't remember if they've changed it since, but they used to be called festivals, and now they're these hockey camps where you go through like a state tournament where they mix up all the high-end travel teams, and you play in like this little showcase, and you eventually make it onto this regional camp. And actually, we would probably be. Did you play in the Ohio district then?
Yeah, I did.
Was Ohio with Illinois? 'Cause I can't remember. We were with Missouri, Wisconsin. I can't remember if Ohio was in there growing up.
I feel like they weren't. I think Ohio was pretty big
right.
chunk in Pittsburgh and Detroit.
Yeah, I think you were up with Pittsburgh,
lumped.
yeah. Because we were, Michigan was our own for the boys. And anyway, you go to these let's talk about the power of role model, because those USA Hockey camps were a big deal for me. They were the first time I was ever introduced to, some of my favorite American, NHLers that I would go on to idolize and try and emulate my game after. You talk about, being able to watch BC lose to Minnesota Duluth. And as a role model now, right, for young women in the game, young Black women, trying to become hockey players, what did your role models do for you in your career growing up? And how are you trying to carry that torch now, given all you've been able to do in the game?
Yeah, well, role models specifically for me were a bit different, because in a role model, you kind of tend to go towards someone that you feel connected to, that's similar towards you. So I didn't necessarily have a Black or African-American role model in the sport. I just really enjoyed the 98 Nagano USA Olympic team. Manon Moreom, who was my coach growing up for that Pee Wee tournament. And just the women who I thought were successful, Angela Ruggiero, Julie Chu, those people that are just like staples in hockey to this day, Haley Wickenheiser. So it was challenging for me. I was just like, well, I'm up here and I'm all alone and I love this game, but we're just going to see where it takes me. I've always been someone who I don't really overthink things. I just dive right in and I see what happens. And so to look back and to think, oh, little Blake, did you think you'd be on, the cover of a USA Hockey magazine, that magazine that you would pick up when you were a little girl and never saw anybody in those pages that looked like you? I would say, heck no. So it's a huge deal now for me to be in this position to say, listen, I'm here. I work in the NHL. I work as a scout. I do this. I've played professional hockey. I went to college. Like, you can do that too, if you want.
I love that. And let's transition to that with your role now with the LA Kings, because you are, I think it's the first Black female NHL scout. Second right now, because who was the first? Cammy Granato, right?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, Chicago, the Granato family are Chicago legends in hockey.
Of course.
What's that been like? How are you, influencing the LA Kings staff? What are you learning from, some of the hockey heavyweights that the organization has to feature? And what goals do you have professionally for, what's next?
Oh man, there's so much in that question. I can just say that one, I'm just so happy with the leadership that we have there to even take a chance on hiring a woman, even, just a woman. Mm-hmm. And I was almost like a serendipitous happenstance where it was like, you're in San Diego. We're very interested in hiring someone that has a different perspective. And they just made the leap. Granted, I earned it because I've been playing hockey for 23 plus years, but it's different. And they were willing to make that jump. So from there, it's been a team. And they've been like, hey, Blake, how can I help you? Hey, Blake, this is what we're doing. And they set high expectations. And it's like, it's just being a part of a hockey team. I'm a part of the Los Angeles Kings, and our number one mission is to make the best product, as you know. Right? And everybody's on board and bought in. Since I've been working there since January 2020, I've learned so much coming from a player to a scouting perspective. You just look at the game differently.
What are some of those things?
Well, for me, me breaking down myself is just hilarious to think about. If I were to rate myself, oh man, it's like you're your hardest critic. So I'm like, okay, sometimes her urgency's not there. Sometimes she's got to be a little quicker on her feet, make decisions better. But yeah, it's just you analyzing the game and just having that bird's eye view of watching plays develop. And then you can see, someone might have a really awesome game or a couple games. And then, weeks later, someone's just crap the bed because whatever circumstance that they're going through, and you kind of just have to navigate that and keep track of your prospects. And it's fun. Can't lie. It's awesome.
I love that. What was some of the hiring, who is your boss with the LA Kings, and what kind of was the hiring process? What was it like? Any highlights you can share?
Yeah, well, I can tell you how I started working there. I was hanging out with Black Girl Hockey Club outside of Staples Center with Kwame Mason, who was with us at the Wyclef filming. And so I was hanging out, and I met Luc Robitaille because he came down to introduce himself to the group. And Luke was like, yo, like, I know everything about the women's game. Like, I know what you guys are doing, standing up. I think it's great. Congratulations. And then bam, he's like, have you ever thought about being a scout? And I was like, Luc Robitaille is asking me if I've thought about being a scout. I haven't, but I'm definitely interested. And from there, it was just like a interview process, go up, meet the crew, see if it was a good fit. Meeting Rob Blake first and foremost was like the coolest moment ever.
Yeah,
I was just standing next to him, Nelson Emerson, Luc Robitaille, and we're just all chatting, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. But you would never know, they're just such cool people, and they just want the best for everyone. So I had to analyze some film, give my feedback, learn the system, and from there it was just like, go out into the world and bring us back someone dope.
And give us some feedback. Yeah. Go find the next great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll have to pick your brain out what you think about my game, since I heard what such a brutal critic you are.
Of myself.
Yeah. Let's, your pro career started in 2013, drafted 5th overall in the Canadian Women's Hockey League by the Boston Blades. What was that like?
Ooh, well, it was emotional because I thought that I was going to quit playing hockey. I thought after BC, and I thought after not going to Sochi for USA, I thought that I was done. So I just went home to Cleveland, and I was really sad and depressed. And I was like, what am I going to do with this degree? And one moment I woke up and I said, I'm not going to stop playing hockey because I'm still good. And Boston drafted me, and I was like, we'll see what happens. This is exciting.
I love it. So you joined the organization then, and eventually 2015, were able to win a Clarkson Cup. What was the championship process like, and what about that championship experience that, do you really remember and bring with you into your workplace today as a scout?
Oh, it was the first championship that I've ever won as what you can call a professional athlete. And all the women around me, we just had this understanding that we weren't only just playing because it was fun, we were playing to grow the sport. And we had people like Brianna Decker and Casey Bellamy and just all these USA Hockey legends right now that are all grinding. We've been doing this since day one, right? Just pushing the sport. So raising the cup together was just an amazing feeling. And then the next day at 9 a.m., I had to go to my 9 to 5, my job.
You used one word there that I want to stick with. You've used grinder a couple times. You used it with Boston College and identifying their style of play. You made mention that, when you're playing for the Boston Blades, that you were grinding. And I know, as a hockey player, this is part of our culture. We identify as grinders. I remember there was this great, I wasn't on the team at the time with the Washington Capitals, but I think it was Dale Hunter was the coach, and he gives this speech about, he comes in the room and he's asking the players, like, what are you guys? And he's asking, what are you guys? And everyone's like looking around like, I don't know. You're plumbers. Go out there and, fucking plumb. That's what he's saying. So it's a very integrated part of our culture, but I want to appreciate for a moment, just on the women's side of pro sport and what your experience has been. What was your weekly schedule like at that time in 2015 during that Clarkson Cup run? And to what degree were you grinding it out? Because I want to gift our listener a little bit of what that looks like. I have an idea of the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I worked at a nonprofit organization called Inner City Weightlifting. I was a student services manager, and basically we tried to get Boston's most at-risk youth inside the gym, teaching them how to become personal trainers and basically letting them out into the world to just have a different lifestyle. And so I had that, which was kind of stressful almost. It was like case management, basically trying to make these guys as successful as they can given their backgrounds. And that was challenging. And I would have practice on a daily basis at 9, 10 o'clock at night with a 45 to an hour drive away, because that was the only ice that we can get at UMass, or I forget where it was, but it was far. It was a Division III school in Boston. And it was challenging. And then I would come back 11:30, 12 in the morning, go to sleep, get up, go to my job. We didn't fly that year. We were on a bus. So from Friday post work, and sometimes thankfully my job was like, oh, you're a professional ice hockey player. Yeah, you can leave a little bit early. I would leave around 3, meet the bus. We would go to Toronto, which is 10 hours away. Play a few games that weekend, drive 10 hours back, get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then get up in the morning and do it all over again for the next week.
Oh, man.
Luckily, I worked in a gym, basically, because we were training these kids to be personal trainers. So I could work out at work. Imagine if I had to like find somewhere to work out on top of all that.
That's so true. Or heaven forbid you skipped one. What a sin that would be.
Yeah.
So you end up becoming a back-to-back champion in different leagues because you joined the National Women's Hockey League the next year. You win the inaugural, how do I say this? Isabel?
Yeah, Isabel.
Cup. What was that like, winning back-to-back championships in pro hockey? Different leagues, but I imagine the celebration was still felt similar.
Yeah, it felt similar, but at the same time, it was almost like you felt the emotion because you felt that hockey was changing. Because this was the first year that we actually got paid a salary, if you can, a salary. But I still had to work full time. So that was just amazing just to add that on. It was like, we're going somewhere, women's hockey. Okay, we're doing it. But together as a team, we had a terrible tragedy in Dana Lang's injury at the Winter Classic in Boston. And, with that injury and with that tragedy as a team, we kind of came together and said, listen, we have to win this championship. And immediately upon winning it, we FaceTimed her and brought the cup to her hospital bed.
Wow.
So it was an amazing feeling, winning the first and being able to share that cup with her.
What were, if any, similarities and differences between the two championship teams? Because I do like to ask anyone that I'm ever able to have on the podcast, like, I haven't won a championship in pro sport just yet. I've come close a couple times. We went to the Western Conference Finals, to the eventual winner against the London Knights in my year in the OHL. We had a couple high-end teams with the Hershey Bears. We were able to get to the second round in that. And then, I thought we really had a good chance to win with the Toronto Marlies when I got, Delton was playing the American League there. In the NHL, I haven't gotten, out of the first round yet. But what were some of the similarities and differences between the two championship teams?
I would say the biggest similarity were the people, because we as a collective, we kind of made that jump from the CWHL to the NWHL. So basically all of Boston, the team that I won with before, we all went to Boston Pride in the NWHL. So we won it together again. So it was amazing and empowering. And we all understood the struggles of women's hockey together and its progression. I would say the differences are just the time that you've put into it. I think when you evolve as an athlete, you become smarter, right? You become smarter and you allocate your time differently. You prioritize differently, and you're just a little bit more of a veteran. So it felt nice to be able to lead, especially the younger class coming in and sharing different experiences with them. But both experiences, winning 2 championships back to back, I mean, that's something that rarely happens. And you just have to be so grateful that you've been able to experience that, because that's a high that you'll be chasing every time you lace up your skates, and it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, it's the ultimate goal and really the only goal.
Right.
So let's transition a little bit to how we together, and you particularly, how you've been able to make strides in terms of growing the game and what growing the game means to you. Because you've been, what do we have here? You've been named to Sports Illustrated list of most powerful women in sport. You were number 1 out of the top 40 under 40 by The Athletic for the sport of hockey. So you're clearly on the radar in terms of, some big, important, powerful people out there identifying talent and personality in sport. And I'm curious what your goals are for our, great game and how we can continue to share it with more and more groups of people.
Yeah. My goals are to normalize differences in people in our sport and to celebrate them and to welcome those who, like me when I was 4 years old, who didn't even know what hockey was, right? So my goal is to put hockey on the map. My goal is to make hockey cool, as Wyclef, you and I and Bryce and Blake were talking about. Hockey is so cool. We just got to share it with the people. We got to share our love for our sport with people that don't know anything about it. So that is my goal, to get more sticks in young kids' hands, to give them a smile, something to look forward to. With hockey, I have changed tremendously with the experiences that I've had, good and bad. And I think team sports, and they just teach you something, right? They teach you something at a younger age that you wouldn't necessarily learn if you hadn't played. And I think hockey is the most different, challenging sport on the planet. And if you can learn how to do that, you can really do anything.
It really is. Sometimes I'll watch the game, even when I've gotten hurt over times in my career, and I'm watching from upstairs like a scout maybe would. And I'll think to myself, like, wow, these guys are good. Like, there's no way. This game is crazy. Like, look how fast it is. Look at the violence behind, and the force behind a particular hit, and just be amazed that, it was my dream, my goal to be able to play at that caliber, and the fact that I've been able to do it sometimes still catches me by surprise. It really can wow me. And I feel whenever I'm able to share our game with somebody in person, there's something about the in-person element that is just so electrifying. And, how can we get more sticks into more kids' hands? Like what does sharing the game look like? So for me, maybe I'm more active on, social media. That's a low cost of entry way for me to share and try and, explore who I can interest in our game and interest in me. What other things can NHLers like myself or other players, what do you challenge us to be able to do to help take these steps that we talk about?
I challenge everyone, and this is me including, is just to get out of your comfort zone and do something that you wouldn't think that you could do. So for you're out there in social media, and I think it's dope as heck that you started a podcast, Curious Competitor. Like, you're having conversations, and this is you getting out of your comfort zone and building relationships and sharing stories, which is so telling and so powerful. So kudos to you. That's dope. For me personally, working with the Los Angeles Kings, not only as a scout, but a growth and inclusion specialist, our main goal is to get sticks into kids' hands. Ball hockey to start, junior Kings when you're ready to make that transition, if you're ready to make that transition. But we just don't want you to not play because you don't think it's for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So our fans who are hopefully more on the cusp of becoming allies, we all just need to have this open heart, right? Our athletes, our athletes in the NHL, to take a step out in the playoffs for those 2 games, to say that social injustice it's just not okay and we're here together. Those are huge for us, for someone like me, for communities of color, for communities that have been marginalized. Just being brave, right? Being brave is all anybody can ever ask. And I think with genuine just trying and not trying to do too much, just being you, I think it will slowly, if everybody does their part, it will slowly open up a bit more.
So, what kind of things are the LA Kings doing around the community to get more players, more sticks? Are they just like going out and hosting, I don't know, like street hockey games, or are they doing like equipment drives?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well, we love equipment drives to start. Right now, it's been challenging. We had ball hockey just up and running, and it was really exciting. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the world, that's been challenging. But our announcement with the Alliance, the 11 teams in Los Angeles, all the sports clubs coming together to fight social injustice, is huge for the Los Angeles community, especially because I think we're one of the most diverse cities in the country, right? To be able to give kids resources to choose, maybe not to even just play, but just to educate themselves on the ways in which maybe sport can be a career path for you, if that's something that you're interested in. So I think partnerships, not just sticking to one thing, right? Partnerships with everybody helps bring people together and in. So for us, yes, we want to give out free stuff. Free stuff, take it. Get a hockey stick in your hand. Let's teach you how to use it. Let's make hockey cool with music, art, hip hop, celebrities. We live in Los Angeles. We've got Snoop Dogg. We've got the cool people to come on in. Yeah. But, other cities can think about being creative and creating their own alliances with other sports teams and different organizations like Black Girl Hockey Club or Hockey in Harlem or Ed Snyder Hockey Foundation, and just finding a way to amplify those voices and maybe have a couple more on the map as well.
Maybe we powwow maybe we have you as a recurring guest and we try and get Snoop Dogg on and ask him the same question. Like, Snoop, how do we get hockey into more people? Like, what do you need from us as someone who didn't grow up playing? What do you need from us? How can we help? And, see, I don't know. That'd be a wild interview. See where it goes.
Right? We can get Wyclef on here too,
That's a good point, yeah. Yeah, that's
no, I think it's great. I think really kids just want things to be cool. And I think us as athletes, we just have to be ourselves and show our personality. PK does a great job showing his personality. I see your personality. It's awesome. Kids just want stuff to relate to. They want stuff to connect to.
I was, hyper serious and professional when I was younger, and really nervous to be, judged in the pro game. And that's why I have a lot of respect for, PK. I'm not sure I've played with someone in the NHL that's had more fun than him. At the end of the day, we all got into this game because we loved it and we had fun.
Yes.
And he's like the kid that, didn't die. Like, he was the kid that didn't have the kid in him, ruined by coaches or, adversity in the game. And I really commend him, for that. And even, your relationship with the game, the way you talk about how dope it is and how grateful you are for all the experiences you've had. Like, there's something about the grittiness of hockey, and the longer you can stay in it can build a little bit of a hardness that I am trying to reject and avoid at all costs. And I don't know, what do you attribute to your personal brightness for all you've been through in the game? All of those, comments up in the stands that, no one expected to get back to you, but maybe did through family who had heard them. How do you maintain this positivity that you exude?
I maintain it from my teammates, the girls in the locker room that support me, that lift me up, that have dance parties before the games. I maintain it through little girls coming up to me saying that they started playing hockey because of me, or they look up to me because I was this person to them in the sport. That to me really makes me feel like I've found my purpose. And I think really holistic person, if they found their purpose, they feel whole. I feel really good. I can sleep at night. I can wake up saying that, I'm trying to make a difference in positive vibes in our game and in this world. And I think you can only be happy and positive about that. What else is there to complain about?
Yeah, there's no other option other than just continue to try to make strides and show up with the intent and the effort every day. And
exactly,
if we can do that, I think you'll be proud of yourself. As you can see, like I love that you've used this concept of purpose and why. What is your purpose and your why? Like, is that what it is? Making sure that little girls who look like you feel empowered for the next generation. Is that what it is?
A part of it is, yeah. And a part of me, the competitive part is I'm not going to let anything or anybody tear me down and tell me that I'm not going to do something. So when we talk about youth sports and how you got through it, even some people that I was close to, friends with, family members with, would ask me, why are you playing hockey? That's not for you. And I would be like, who are you to tell me it's not for me? This is what I want to do. So from that little girl, just having that strength and support from her parents, that I'll take that with me to my grave. That's not going anywhere. My parents instilled fire, and from there it's just snowballed into different avenues of in ways that you can touch people, because it's really all about making relationships and giving, right? So if I can leave this sport better than when I found it, if I can change the people's parents' minds in the stands to say, hey, maybe not bully that little black girl who is so impressionable because it's not the right thing to do, maybe our world would be better.
Yeah, I think you're the perfect person to really talk about the power of resiliency and not taking no for an answer, and dream, and making sure that you're trying to maybe not necessarily prove people wrong, but prove the people that believe in you right. Mm-hmm. Because I remember even in my childhood, like I did look like the guys on TV. I'm a white male, and that's, historically what the greatest percentage of the National Hockey League has been. Yeah. And even me, like I would grow up in school, and what do you want to be when you grow up? Professional athlete. No. What do you actually want to do? I don't have another answer for you. Like I'm 12. I don't need another answer. What do you want to do? Like, and this whole permission to dream, this license to try to be more. I really appreciate when I'm able to get a minute with someone that, embodies that the way you have. And I think what greater purpose, and because you commended me earlier for starting a podcast, and this was something that Colin Steingard and I, my producer, and I talked about, was what are different ways you can leave the game of hockey better than you found it? Mm-hmm. And if I can encourage the next generation of junior player, of professional, to be more open-minded, to be more curious, to be more competitive, to be more hungry, to be more holistically integrated.
Yeah.
That would be a huge win. And, I try to exemplify that through my actions. But I also feel that having some of these more well-rounded conversations, I think can be proof of the work that goes into showing up that way every day, that it's not something that you just always feel. Like it really does take a conscious decision to show up in the world that way. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. There's always intent behind every single action. And you're doing it, brother. Doing it.
Thank you. I do want another shot at that. Now that you brought Wyclef up, I do want another shot at that rap. I thought Kwame said he was going to edit that out, and he dogged me. He did not.
He did dog you.
Yeah, he dogged me bad.
That was not nice. You're like, take it out. You're like, I got you, bro.
Yeah, not.
It was just clickbait, It was just clickbait.
Whatever works, whatever I got to do to, grow the game, grow, the production we were working on. And
over at Wyclef's house.
That's it. Yeah. And we'll end it there.
Done.
We'll end it there. I do, I want to ask you about Quentin Byfield and what it means for a player, a black player in our game getting drafted that high. Like, what a special accomplishment. Had Magic Johnson tweet out at him, which I thought was sick.
Love it.
What makes him so special? Because I know very little about him other than the draft coverage. What makes him so special as a player in person? What can we be excited to see out of the number 2 overall pick?
I think he's just going to be a game changer. He's got great size. Looking at his film, he's got great body positioning. He can protect the puck. I don't really think anybody's going to take it away from him. I think he's going to put it home if he's in the slot. But yeah, I'm just excited, one, because he came to the draft with a bow tie on, swagalicious,
Fly. That's what making hockey cool. That's what we need.
That's what I'm saying. And LA is ready for it. Like you said, Magic Johnson's reaching out to him. All the pro teams are like, yo, we love it, man. We can't wait to see you. Black people in the stands. Come on. We need that. And he seems really humble too. He seems like a really good kid. And I reached out to him. I was like, listen, bro, anything you need, I got you. I got your back, bro. I got you. So he's going to be a difference maker. I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I was not happy to see LA take another 6'4" center behind Kopitar, a couple monsters down the middle, but that's where the game's going. I think that's where the game went. Like similar to basketball, where it was kind of maybe big and slow to like small and skilled. And I'm super excited to see this like NHL 2.0 when the game gets big and skilled. Because no one ever argued that size was an advantage.
Right.
But this game is getting, so fast and so skilled by the day. I remember even from when I came in as a young Washington Capital, 2013, 2014, your third and fourth lines, it was, we'll stick to that word again. It was grinders. It was guys that played North hockey. It was all chip-ins and very physical parts of the lineup. And now NHL teams are being so creative with every dollar they can use with the cap, with every position player they can, to add scoring and that offensive weapon element. It's like we keep championing. Our game is so cool and so exciting. We just need to bring it to more people.
Right. It's evolving. I love this new hockey style we got going on. It's great. It's finesse. It's flashy. I don't know what do you call it when you go behind the net and you do this thing?
Oh, like the lacrosse goal?
Yeah.
I will never forget the first time I ever saw it. And then I think it was Mikhail Granlund did it I think it was at a World Championships off like a full blown draw where he didn't even flex the stick. He just slid it. I thought that was wild. That was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Creative. I love it. I will say that I did watch 2012, 2014 LA Kings Stanley Cup games recently. Even then the game changed. It was different. So
different.
It just evolved so quickly. So man.
How are you helping contribute to that? Because I know you do some, coaching and things like that. You do the workouts, given your background and working in a gym and things like that. That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
That's been a passion of yours. When you are coaching, when you are leading, younger players through training, what are some of your focuses?
For me, I think quickness, agility, and explosivity, and just being athletic too. Plyometrics, you're on one foot all the time while you're skating. So it's very important to have good balance, good core stability, not be able to get knocked down, and reaction. So that sounds like a lot, but strength is always strength, right? You can build that stuff up, but if you can break it down to be great and change your direction and great with your balance and great with your flexibility so you don't get injured, right? That's where you're golden, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot you need to train in our game, but there's a lot that we need to be able to do in our game. It is a difficult sport played on these, frozen little swords on a sheet of ice. It's not easy. It's a tough game.
Oh
even for
God.
NHLers, people will be like, I can't believe you're able to, skate like that and play in the NHL. Like, I don't even know how to skate. Like, I'm still learning. And I'll say, yeah, I mean, inside edge, outside edge, glide platform. That's what I work on every day still. I'll send them videos of Sidney Crosby doing it on YouTube. Like, it's still the fundamentals of the game don't change.
You can't ever stop with that. You can always get better. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I actually started doing more inside edges and changing the way I skate because I was leaning too forward. I was kicking too far back. I was overexerting myself. And someone was just like, listen, just wider stance and just explode out that way. And I had more endurance. I had more energy. I was playing 30 plus minutes in the end up. It was I needed that.
Yeah, efficiency is everything. So how has life changed since you've stopped playing? How has that been? Or are you still playing anywhere on your own now?
Until everyone asked me this question and I'm like, I played in the P-Dub last year, Corona's this year, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Luc Robitaille's like, yo, don't close the door if you don't need to, and I don't like using the word retire. So for me, it's like I said,
that's great advice.
I just let it go and see what happens. I'm pretty busy right now with the Kings and loving it. I feel like I'm making a larger impact right now because I'm able to do something. So we're just going to see. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, I didn't mean to show you the door there because that's one thing I love picking retired players' brains because I feel like they have this, rosy lens on the game, and you're able to, hindsight's always 20/20. So you're able to kind of pick their brain, and the overwhelming answer to, any question I have to what it was like to stop playing, the answer is always play until they absolutely show you the door, until there's nowhere you could play, continue to play, don't stop, don't even think about stopping. When you think about stopping, just go play somewhere else. And it helps me appreciate everything that they rant about, the beauty of a locker room, the beauty of being on a team. And it's a fun, special game that we play. And I try my very best to surround myself with people who remind me not to take it lightly. You're living the dream. We're all living the dream. If you're playing hockey, you're living the dream. You're blessed, man. Aside from, I do want to end with, before we let you go, because I want to respect your time, some of your highlights when you look back over the course of your career, because there was your experience over in Switzerland. I missed earlier, we were talking about your pro career, the 2 championships. What was, looking back on where you're at, I'm not saying you're done. What has been the highlight of your career thus far?
Oh, wow. The highlight of my career has definitely been one highlight or a couple.
It's your show. You're the guest. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. I really championships is obviously number one. Raising a cup, being able to kiss it, celebrating with your friends, with your teammates, with your family, basically. That was the sickest feeling ever. Like I said, you'll be chasing that every single time you lace up your skates and compete. Also, just being, I would say, winning Defensive Player of the Year was really exciting for me because I had come back from Switzerland. I had a decent showing there. I came back and decided not to go back to Boston, but to play in Buffalo, where the Pagula family owned the Buffalo Buttes, and they really treated us like professional athletes and kind of made a blueprint for how women's professional teams should be treated and should be ran. So it was probably my favorite year ever playing was in 2019. We went to the championship. We didn't win, but it was the most fun year because for me, it's all about the team. It's all about how we vibe in the locker room, the fun we're having, the music we're playing, the things we do, getting stuck in snowstorms in Buffalo and just being like, what do we do? Okay, let's just make a pizza out of nothing together and drink wine and hang out. So for me, it's just about having fun, and the hockey is obviously a cherry on top.
To follow up, advice for younger players, for either a young Blake Bolden or maybe a young man out there trying to embark on their youth hockey journey, professional journey. What advice would you give for someone who's maybe 9, 10, 11 all the way up to say 15?
Yeah, my advice would be to not conform and to figure out who you are, because there's a lot of things happening. And I can say that 10-year-old Beat Blake was not her true self. When she was 10, 11, 12, she was conforming. She was trying to fit in. And what we're asking for is diversity in our sports. So be proud of the person you are, the interests that you have, the tweaks that make you you, and show it because we want to see it.
I love that. And I think we're getting there. I think all we had to do was make hockey players bored enough on quarantine where we took the game away from where they had to go on a TikTok and social media and start to show some personalities. And I made a joke. I forget who I was talking to, but I said, there's going to be some awkward interviews when hockey comes back after this quarantine thing. Like people are going to be like, so please explain the TikTok that you filmed on May 7th of 2020 and players are just going to be twiddling their thumbs like, yeah, that was a different time, and I'm just going to get pucks in deep now and keep it simple. And I don't know. I think our game is played by some really interesting people from all over the world, and I'm hoping that the more common this permission to be ourselves becomes, it's going to bring out, the best in our people and the best in our game. And Blake, thank you for championing that. Thank you for your sense of fun that you bring to every room that I've shared with you and to our game in particular. And, I definitely feel a particular sense of gratitude for, still being able to play this beautiful game after talking with you today. And, so lucky to play our sport. So lucky. It's got some brilliant, awesome, interesting characters in it. No question.
For sure. Well, thanks for having me. I was so excited when you tweeted or whatever. I was like, yes, the gang's getting back together.
Yeah. Like, how can people find more of you on Instagram, or I know you have a website as well?
Yeah, it's blakebolden.com, but websites are kind of like whatever. So just go to Sport Blake, Twitter, Instagram. I'll be there. Maybe making some vegan gains or hanging out with my boyfriend, who's a strength and conditioning coach and kicks my butt on a daily basis. So
I love it.
There's always some fun things going on.
I love it. Blake, thanks so much for your time and for sharing your story with myself and our audience today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
To wrap things up today, I really want to thank all of our listeners from around the world for sticking with us, with Blake and I. And I want to thank Blake for being so generous with her time. And I touched on it a little bit in the intro, but there were 3 points I really want to boil down from today. And number one is this concept that the spark of our life can kind of happen at any time. So for Blake, it happened as a young girl growing up around Cleveland, Ohio. Her mom, who was a single mom at a time, just happened to be dating this guy who was into hockey, and it ended up igniting the spark that has been, to date, Blake's life's work. And we never know when we may have this experience where our life can change forever. And I think that it was really special to highlight that. And I thank her for sharing that story with us. And it's something I try and channel in my own life, where you never exactly know all the answers. And sometimes that's okay. We never need to know all of them. And sometimes we got to have some faith in the process that our life is on, the journey that is on course for, what's meant for us. The second point that I, really appreciate Blake for is how she brings fun to everything she does, and especially hockey. That's the reason as young players we all get in this game. And now, I'm guilty of it even as a professional, where you can get worried about power play time and how we're on track for the season and what our playoff rank is. And all of those things are certainly important. And, the competitiveness in us will never allow us to not care about those things. But for sure, we have to bring fun and play and good vibes to the rink every day. And I think that as people and as players, we'll be brighter, more energized, and, able to, be more resilient with whatever the game throws at us when we're able to channel that. And then the third point that I thought was so cool for Blake is I prompted her the question in our podcast today: what was the power of role model in her life? And Blake made mention about the story, where she was watching Boston College play Minnesota Duluth, and some of those girls on the ice were role models for her. But to be frank, none of them really looked like her. None of them were black. And so she went on to, identify that if we are struggling to find role models for ourselves, Blake gave herself permission to go after becoming the role model herself for the next generation, the role model she didn't have. And so if we're able to, look around a room, it's something that I've considered even in my own career where, if there's a behavior that's not being modeled that I would like to see in a locker room, that responsibility to show that and to be that person, that might fall on my shoulders, and I'm okay with that. And I really thought it was cool how Blake, was able to reflect on the role models she was able to have growing up and sort of the lack thereof. And then, has been able to step into her confidence as a modern day role model that she had when she was growing up. So for all of our guests today, thank you for joining. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe, for our podcast. I try to read all the comments I can. I really appreciate each and every one, even the bad ones. I try to learn from all the feedback. So please continue to do that. And I thank you for that. And, thank you for joining me again this week on our journey together to become a more curious competitor. I look forward to doing it again together next week. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's producer Colin. I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to let you guys know about a new way you can support the Curious Competitor podcast. We are super proud to have launched a Patreon with access to additional content, exclusive AMAs, and loyalty merchandise. If you could spare the cost of a latte a month, it would go a long way in supporting the expenses involved with the podcast, as well as supporting the people that make it happen. If you do not currently have the means to do so, please don't feel the need to donate. We will be providing this podcast continuously and hope you can find value in these conversations. If you're interested in supporting, visit patreon.com/thecuriouscompetitor or check out the link in the show notes. Any support of the podcast is greatly appreciated. And as always, we look forward to seeing you next week.